Welcome back to another Read With Me session. I am yours truly, Isabel, and I'm here to read with you the second part of this amazing chapter, which is chapter number 5, and it's all about influences. The first chapter was all about how to make sure that your input, whatever you're putting into your life, whatever you're putting into your brain, your mind, whatever you're putting in there is clean, positive information. He used an example of a glass of water. So imagine it, let's use this. Imagine this was your brain. If it's clear, it's filled with positive reinforcements, you're clear-minded, you know exactly what you want and you go for it. You're not being blocked. But if you constantly are putting in negative information, negative thoughts, negative media, allowing things to come in that are not in alignment to your goals and what you're looking to accomplish, this water gets dark and it gets muddy and it gets foggy and it doesn't allow you to actually see through it, which then it becomes a negative block towards your success. So he shares a couple of things. Make sure to check out part 1 of chapter 5. Really, really great. Really, really awesome. In this particular section, we're going to talk about associations. Who's influencing you? Associations are vital. This is why I wanted to actually keep it separate. Okay, associations are everything. Who you spend your time around, who you decide to work with, who you decide to, bring on as a team member or hire. It makes a huge, huge difference. Okay, let's get into it. Birds of a feather flock together. The people with whom you habitually associate are called your reference group. According to research by social psychologist Dr. David McLevin of Harvard, your reference group determines as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. Who do you spend the most time with? Who are the people you most admire? Are those two groups of people exactly the same? If not, why not? Jim Rohn taught that we become the combined average of the 5 people we hang around the most. Ron would say that we could tell the quality of our health, attitude, and income by looking at the people around us. The people with whom we spend our time determine what conversations dominate our attention, along with the attitudes and opinions we are regularly exposed to. Eventually, we start to eat what they eat, talk like they talk, read what they read, think like they think, watch what they watch, treat people how they treat them, even dress like they dress. The funny thing is, more often than not, we are completely unaware of the similarities between us and our circle of 5. How are we not aware? Because your associations don't shove you in a direction, they nudge you ever so slightly over time. Their influences are so subtle that it's like being in an inner tube out in the ocean, feeling like you're floating in place. That is, until you look up and realize that the gentle current has pushed you a half-mile down the shore. Think of your friends who order greasy appetizers or a cocktail before dinner, and that's their routine. Hang out with them long enough, and you'll find yourself grabbing for the cheese nachos, potato skins, and joining them for that extra beer glass of wine. Your pace will suddenly match their pace. And meanwhile, your other friends order healthy food and talk about inspiring books and that they're reading, their new goals, or even their business aspirations. Soon you begin to assimilate their behaviors and habits. You read and talk about what they talk about. You see the movies they're excited about, and you go to the places they recommend. The influence of your friends have over you is subtle and can be positive or negative. Either way, the impact is incredibly powerful. So watch out. You cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. So what is the combined average income, health, and attitudes of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with? Does the answer frighten you? And if so, the best way to increase the potential for whatever traits you desire is to spend the majority of your time with people who already possess those traits. You will see the power of the influence work for you rather than against you. The behaviors and attitudes that help them acquire the success you admire will begin to become part of your daily routine. Hang around them long enough, and you're likely to realize similar successful outcomes in your life. If you haven't already, jot down the names of those 5 people you hang around most. Also, write down their main characteristics, both positive and negative. And it doesn't matter who they are. It could be your spouse, your brother, your neighbor, or your assistant. Now, average them out. What's their health? What's their average health? What's their bank balance? What's their average relationship like? As you look at those results, ask yourself, is this list okay for me? Is this where I want to go? It's time to reappraise and reprioritize the people that you spend your time with. These relationships can nurture you, starve you, or keep you stuck. Now that you've started to carefully consider who you spend your time with, let's go a little bit deeper. As Jim Rohn taught me, it's powerful to evaluate and shift your associations into 3 categories: disassociations, limited associations, and expanded associations. Disassociations are where you guard yourself against the influences your children are exposed to and the people they hang around with. You guard against the influences. This is disassociation. Okay, you are aware of the influences that these people could have on your children and the choices that they might make as a result. I believe that this is the same principle that you should apply to you. You already know this. There are some people you might need to break away from completely, and this might not be an easy step to take, but it's essential. You have to make the hard choice not to let certain negative influences affect you anymore. Determine the quality of life you want to have, and then surround yourself with the people who represent that and support that vision. I'm constantly weeding out people who refuse to grow and live positively. Growing and changing your associations is a lifelong progress. And some people might say I'm too rigorous about it, but I like to say that I want to be more. I've had business relationships with someone that I really liked, but when the economy got difficult, most of the conversations was focused on how horrible everything was and how much his company was feeling the hit and how hard it was to get out of there. I said, man, you've got to stop working on your presentation about how life is. I can hear you collecting all the data points to reinforce your beliefs. He persisted in seeing everything as more dour and hopeless than it was. And I decided we had no more business doing business together. When you make the tough decision to put up boundaries between you and the people who drag you down, you realize that they'll fight you, especially those closest to you. Your decision to live a more positive, goal-oriented life will hold up a mirror of their own poor choices. You will make them uncomfortable and they will attempt to pull you back down to their level. Their resistance doesn't mean they don't love you or want the best for you. It's not about you at all. It's about their fear and guilt about their own poor choices and the lack of discipline. Just know that breaking away won't be easy. Limited associations. There are some people that you can spend 3 hours with, but not 3 days. Others you can spend 3 minutes with, but not 3 hours. And you always remember that the influence of associations is both powerful and subtle. The person that you're walking with can determine whether you slow your pace or quicken it, literally and figuratively. Similarly, you can't help but be touched by the dominant attitudes, actions, and behaviors of the people with whom you spend time. Decide how much you can afford to be influenced based on how those people represent themselves. This is difficult, I know. I have had to do this on several occasions, even with close family members, and I will not, however, allow someone else's actions or attitudes to have a dampening influence on me. I once had a neighbor who deemed a 3-minute friend. For those 3 minutes, we could have a great chit chat, but we wouldn't mesh for 3 hours. I could hang out with an old high school friend for 3 hours, but he's not a 3-day type of guy. And there are some people I can hang around for a few days, but wouldn't go over an extended vacation with. Take a look at your relationships. Make sure that you're not spending 3 hours with a 3-minute person. Expanded associations. We just talked about weeding out negative influencers. While you're doing that, you'll also want to reach out, identify people who have positive qualities in the areas of your life where you want to improve. people with the financial and business success you desire, the parenting skills you want, the relationships you yearn for, the lifestyle that you love, and then spend more time with them. Join organizations, businesses, health clubs with those people and gather, make friends. Ahead, you'll see how I used to drive to a different town to spend quality time with fortuitous results. I rave about Jim Rohn throughout this book, and aside from my father, Jim remains the foremost mentor and influencer. My relationship with Jim perfectly exemplifies an expanded association. While I got to share a few private meals and spend a little time with him during our interviews and backstage before events, most of my time with Jim was spent listening to him in my car or reading his words in my living room. I have spent more than 1,000 hours getting direct instruction from Jim, and 99% of that was through books and audio programs. What's exciting about this is that no matter where you are in your life, maybe you're busy at home with small children, or maybe caretaking aging parents, working long hours with people with whom you have little in common, or living out in a country far from the nearest office building, you too can have almost any mentor that you want. If he or she has gathered the best thoughts, stories, and ideas into books, videos, and podcasts, you have an unlimited bounty from which you can draw from. Take advantage of it. Now, people often reach out to my assistant in order to get my advice or mentorship. All she has to do is tell them that it's already available from anywhere in the world through the Darren Daily or inside the Darren Hardy training vault. If you want to have a better, deeper, even more meaningful relationship, ask yourself, who has the type of relationship that I want? How can I spend more time with that person? Who can I meet who can positively influence me? Let their glow rub off on you. Befriend that person you think is biggest, baddest, and most successful person in your field. What do they read? Where do they go to lunch? How can that association influence you? You can build these expanded associations by joining networking groups or even online communities. Find the charity organizations, symphonies, and clubs where the people you want to emulate gather. Go there. I love that. I love that so much. Find a peak performance partner. Another way to increase your exposure to expanded associations is by teaming up with a peak performance partner, someone equally committed to study and personal growth as you. This person should be someone that you trust, someone bold enough to tell you what they really think about you, your attitudes, and your performance. And it could be that this person is a longtime friend, or maybe it's someone who doesn't really know you that well at all. The point is to get and give an unbiased, honest, outside perspective. My longtime accountability partner is a good friend, Landon Taylor. And as I mentioned before, we have a 30-minute call every Friday to discuss our weekly wins, losses, fixes, ahas, and where we are on our growth plans. The anticipation of the call and knowing I have to be accountable to Landon keeps me extra committed throughout the week. And I make a record of Landon's losses or any feedback that he needs, and I make sure to ask him about it next week. He does the same for me. That way we hold each other accountable, and he might say, okay, you screwed up here last week and admitted it and committed to change. What did you do about that this week? And life is life. We're both busy executives, but it's amazing to me that we actually end up doing this every week without fail. It's not easy. Sometimes I'll be flying through my day and think, oh, crud, I have to do this. But often in the middle of the call, I think, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. And even preparing for it and thinking of my big wins and losses for the week, I learn about myself. This week, I told Landon, I'm in the middle of so many things. I'm writing my book. I'm having a lot of realizations and so many ahas, but not one thing that's really compelling. He said, let this be the last week that you don't come to the table with any ahas. Go. Don't shortchange me, he said, point taken. In reality, I was shortchanging myself by not identifying one memorable enough thing to share. I have a serious challenge for you if you're up for it. Want real feedback? Find people who care about you to be brutally honest with you. Ask them these questions. How do I show up to you? What do you think my strengths are? In what areas do you think I can improve? Where do you think I sabotage myself? What's one thing I can stop doing that would benefit me the most? What's one thing that I should start doing? Oof. This is good. This is really good. And I mean, let's get into it. Invest in mentorship. Paul J. Myers, another man who served as a mentor to me. Paul passed away in 2009 at the age of 81. Whenever I thought I was doing really well, really playing at a high level, I'd get around Paul. He was my reality check. What he did before lunch was mind-boggling to me. I got to spend a lot of time with him. Paul bought one of my companies, and I also conducted a turnaround for one of his companies. He was a very powerful spirit in my life. And after spending a couple hours with Paul, hearing about all his plans, ventures, and activities, my head would spin. Just trying to make sense of all he had going on exhausted me. And after time with Paul, I'd want to go take a nap. But my association with him raised my game. His walking pace was my running pace. It expanded my ideas about how big I could play and how ambitious I could be. You have to get around people like that. You're never too good for a mentor. My friend Harvey McKay told me, I have had 20 coaches, if you can believe it. I have a speech coach, I have a writing coach, I have a humor coach, I've got a language coach, and so on and on. I have always found it interesting that the most successful people that truly top performers are the ones that are willing to hire and pay for the best coaches and trainers there are. It pays to invest in your improved performance. Finding and engaging a mentor doesn't need to be a mysterious or intimidating process either. When I sat down with Ken, he explained the simplicity of engaging a mentor. The first thing that you want to remember with a mentor is that it doesn't need to take a lot of their time. The best advice I've ever gotten is in short clips, having lunch or breakfast with someone, just telling them that I'm working on and asking for their advice. You will be amazed how successful business people are willing to be mentors to people when it's not taking a lot of their time. John Wooden reinforced that point to me when he shared, mentoring is your true legacy. It is the great inheritance you can give to others, and it should never end. It is why you get up every day to teach and be taught. He went on to explain that the mentorship is also a two-way street, and an individual needs to be open to be mentored. It is our responsibility to be willing to allow our lives and our minds to be touched, molded, and strengthened by the people who surround us. This is how you're able to develop your own personal brand of advisors. As part of my plan to be wiser, more strategic, operate more effectively, and expand my time, I have with high-minded leaders, I developed a board of advisors in my personal life. I hand-selected a dozen people because of their areas of expertise, creative thinking ability, and or my greatest respect for who they are. Once a week, I reach out to them, to a few of them, and then solicit ideas, run thoughts by them, and ask for feedback and input. Having started this process, I can tell you the benefits I've already received, and they have been profound, far more than I anticipated. It's surprising that the genius people are willing to share when you show sincere interest. Who should be on your personal board of advisors? Seek out positive people who have achieved the success that you want to create in your life. And remember the adage, never ask advice of someone with whom you wouldn't want to trade places with. Lastly, we have environment. Now we talked about input, associations, and now this is the last type of influence that is in your life. Environment, okay? I freaking love the associations part. It is huge, okay? I'll share something personal. This year has been the year, at least for me, where I've been able to really take into account who I want into my life, who I don't want into my life, who I've gotten rid of, and who I want to attract into my life. You know, there's so many different amazing people out there in the world that I'm excited to connect with, and I'm excited for what's to come. Number 3, environment. Changing your view changes your perspective. When I was in real estate working in the San Francisco Bay Area, I lived and worked within a very limited demographic. I saw the same kinds of people operating at the same level over and over. I needed to find an elevator circle of associations in order to go where I wanted to go. I started driving across the bay to one of the richest and most powerful spots on the planet, Tiburon in Marin County, north of San Francisco. If you've ever been to Monaco, that's what Tiburon looks like, but far quainter. It's a spectacular spot. I would go to a delightful seafood restaurant, Sam's on the Raft. The food was great, but more importantly, the restaurant was popular with the area's most affluent residents. Aside from going to Sam's to expand my associations, I'd also sit on the raft and look up at the hillside. I was so mesmerized by the multi-million-dollar houses that hung off the cliffs. One in particular always caught my eye. It was a blue 4-story home with an elevator and a whale lightning rod at the top. What would be the perfect house? I used to ask myself all the time. If someone could just give me one of them, which one would I pick? The answer was always the same. It was this beautiful blue one. It was in this perfect spot with a bright vista, the best of the bunch. On my way home from brunch one morning, I saw an open house sign and I thought it'd be fun to check it out. One sign led to another, and as I followed them, zigzagging up the cliffs along the narrow streets, I finally reached the top of the hill and found the advertised home. As I entered and walked up to the spectacular bay window, the world opened up in front of me. The peninsula tip of Tiburon, Angel Island across the bay, Berkeley, and the East Bay and the Bay Bridge, and the entire San Francisco skyline over the Golden Gate Bridge in a 300-degree expanse. I walked onto the balcony and looked around. Suddenly, I realized that this was the very house I'd been looking at for years. This was the blue house. I signed the contract on the spot. My dream house was now mine. I can't really say that I met anybody at Sam's who changed my life. However, the environment had a powerful effect on me. Seeing those homes up in the cliffs fueled my ambition and expanded my dreams. I ended up working harder than I ever thought possible to make those dreams come true. And they did. That dream in your heart may be bigger than the environment in which you find yourself. Sometimes you have to get out of that environment to see the dream fulfilled. It's like planting an oak sapling in a pot. When it becomes root bound, its growth is limited. It needs a great space to become a mighty oak, and so do you. When I talk about your environment, I'm not only referring to where you live, I'm referring to whatever surrounds you. Creating a positive environment to support your success means clearing out all the clutter in your life, not only your physical clutter that makes it hard for you to work productively and efficiently, although that's really important too, but it's also the psychic clutter of whatever around you isn't working, whatever is broken, whatever makes you cringe. Each and every incomplete piece of your life exerts a draining force on you, sucking the energy and accomplishments and success out of you as surely as a vampire stealing your blood. Every incomplete promise, commitment, and agreement saps your strength because it blocks your momentum and inhibits your ability to move forward. Incomplete tasks keep calling you back to the past to take care of them. So think about what you can complete today. And additionally, when you're creating an environment to support your goals, remember that you get in life what you tolerate. This is true in every area of your life, particularly within your relationships with friends, family, and even colleagues. What you have decided to tolerate is also reflected in the situations and circumstances of your life right now. So put another way, you will get in life what you accept and expect you are worthy of. If you tolerate disrespect, you will be disrespected. If you tolerate people being late and making you wait, people will show up late for you. If you tolerate being underpaid and overworked, that will continue for you. If you tolerate your body being overweight, tired, and perpetually sick, it will be. It's amazing how life will organize around the standards you set for yourself. Some people think they're victims of the other people's behaviors, but in actuality, you have full control over how people treat you. Protect your emotional, mental, and physical space. Then you can live with the peace rather than in the chaos. And then the stress, the world will hurl upon you. If you want to foster a disciplined routine of rhythms and consistency so that Big Mo not only pays you a visit to your house, but also moves in, you have to make sure the environment is welcoming and supportive of you becoming, doing, and performing at world-class levels. While we're on the topic of world-class, in the next chapter, I want to help you take everything you've learned thus far and give you the secret to accelerate your results. Achieving greater results with only a little more effort may feel a little like cheating or an unfair advantage, but who said life was fair? Awesome. I loved this chapter. I hope you enjoyed this chapter as much as I did. I know I enjoyed it very, very much. Wow. I love this chapter, and it hit me so perfectly, perfect timing to, read this. I really needed that. Once again, this amazing book. We are going to be doing chapter 6 in the next video, and then the conclusion, the video after that. So I'm excited for what's to come. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that you're reading with me and we're doing this together, because when we read, we're able to really just grow to the next level. So I'm excited to have you here. I'll see you in the next video and talk to you soon. Bye.